Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on something a bit different, maybe one of our most intimate explorations yet. We're tackling a highly personal and honestly incredibly detailed source, a weekly review from October 2024, week 40. And this isn't just, a simple checklist. It feels more like a complex map. It charts goals, discipline, setbacks, subtle observations across just wildly diverse fields. I mean, everything from coding trivial typos in like obscure programming languages to growing sweet potatoes in an outdoor fish pond.
Yeah, it's a fascinating snapshot, isn't it, of a complex life lived
Right.
very intentionally. Our mission here, I think, is to extract some truly actionable insights from all this. We're dealing with fitness metrics, mental state, environmental control, rapid skill acquisition, and how it all interacts within just one short 7-day period.
The sheer breadth is kind of stunning. You've got notes on average sleep hours right next to thoughts about rock garden strategies and new egg recipes. So for you listening, maybe managing your own demanding schedule, the central question for us becomes, how does someone effectively manage and, measure progress across so many different areas at once without just burning out from the sheer overload? Let's try and unpack this system.
Okay, yeah. Let's start where the review starts, which is really the foundation, health.
Yep.
The big goal stated is empowerment, right? Improving long-term quality of life. But the main challenge, the thing that immediately seemed to destabilize the system this week, irregularity.
Yeah, that irregularity just jumps out in the sleep data.
Yeah.
So the numerical goal was 7 hours daily, and the average was actually hit roughly 7 hours. But here's the critical difference, isn't it? The patterns were highly irregular. It mentions medication impact, which severely compromised the quality of that sleep. It's a textbook case, really. Hitting the number, but completely missing the qualitative experience.
Exactly, and this is where we see that immediate ripple effect you mentioned. Erratic sleep is specifically cited as disrupting the movement goals that followed. When sleep is fractured like that, mental willpower, well, it takes a hit. And that led to walking steps falling below the 5,000 steps daily threshold. And then you add in external friction. It mentions heavy downpours compounding the issue,
Right.
which led to that highly relatable choice, as the source puts it, of opting instead for cozy indoor reading on a couch.
Huh. Yeah, been there.
Yeah,
It really shows how environment and your internal state are just completely linked.
absolutely. But it wasn't all negative adaptation.
No, that's true. It's a great example of adapting, actually. But let's look at the dietary side. Because there, we actually see some structural strength, don't we? The source notes that adding oats and various seeds noticeably enhanced overall well-being, even with that sporadic sleep schedule messing things up.
Yeah, that's a potentially powerful discovery. And they seem to be observing it quite keenly. The review specifically notes that this increased intake of oats and seeds seemed to improve sleep on some days, though, they're careful the full impact remains uncertain, needs more monitoring. It's like personal science, isn't it? Applied to nutrition, focusing on that micronutrient density.
Yeah, the self-experimentation is clear. And speaking of structure, the 16.8 intermittent fasting goal, well, that took a significant hit. The erratic sleep led to waking up early and having breakfast around 6 a.m. for several days. But here's the interesting bit of counter data. Despite those schedule shifts, despite failing the fasting window, weight remained relatively steady all week. Why do you think that was?
Well, that stability, I think, suggests that the underlying nutritional framework is the real stabilizer here. It seems to mitigate the damage from the timing failure. The source details a 2-1-1-2-2-1 structure. For anyone listening who isn't familiar, that usually refers to a meal ratio goal, emphasizing, say, 2 parts plants, 1 part protein, 1 part carbohydrate. That kind of focus ensures micronutrient sufficiency and satiety. So even when the timing failed the fasting window, the quality and volume control from the food itself, that 2 and 11 principle probably prevented major swings.
Ah, I see. So the structure underneath held firm.
Yeah.
And, okay, on the physical front, we see another important adaptive strategy emerging. Instead of trying to force their usual high-intensity workout routine, which, needs focused energy, that the bad sleep likely prevented the focus shifted, it shifted to investigating calisthenics.
Right, and that's a crucial pivot. Moving from execution, which was probably impossible, to investigation, they're shifting focus towards a potentially lower friction, more accessible workout form, one that relies on body weight, not equipment.
Okay, but I have to challenge that a little bit. Is investigating calisthenics genuinely productive? Or is it just, another form of optimization paralysis, a way to feel busy without doing? They didn't actually start a new routine, right? They just looked into one. For someone trying to keep momentum, doesn't investigating sometimes feel like a fancy excuse for avoiding the actual action?
That's a very fair challenge, and it's necessary to ask that. Look, if this investigation phase dragged on for multiple weeks, yes, we definitely flag it as potential procrastination. But viewed in the context of this specific week one, dominated by physical irregularity, medication effects, recovery, this shift looks more like, let's call it defensive optimization. It's the system intelligently stopping itself from forcing a routine that would likely lead to failure or even injury, and instead creating a low friction option for the next week. It actually shows self-awareness, I think.
Hmm.
Rather than just doing nothing, they invested low energy into preparing a feasible alternative for when energy returns.
Okay, defensive optimization. Preparing a feasibility study for the next phase, not just pushing against a known failure point. I like that framing. So the body was erratic, definitely. But let's see how this person managed to keep, as the review says, a tranquil and composed mental state despite all that physical chaos. That's quite something.
It really is the big surprise of this section, isn't it? That mental composure. And if we connect it to the bigger picture, the source actually attributes this tranquility to a breakthrough physical moment. Recovery from various injuries. Apparently, this recovery alleviated pain that had been going on for months.
So the key takeaway isn't necessarily long meditation sessions. It's that removing a source of chronic physical friction suddenly freed up a massive amount of mental bandwidth.
Precisely. Think of chronic pain as a constant tax on your cognitive resources. When that tax is suddenly removed, even if sleep is still a bit off, the system can achieve a baseline of composure it didn't have before. And this then allowed for resuming specific mental practices that maybe sporadically, short sitting meditations, just 1, 5, or 10 minutes whenever they felt the need. And critically, resuming walking meditation, focusing on that heel-to-toe walking now that the injury allows for a proper gait again.
Right, the physical recovery enabled the mental practice.
Yeah.
And the discipline here, it seems focused on these ultra-low effort but high-frequency actions. We see this pattern again in the environmental control strategies, right? Where minimalism is maintained by this single, powerful, habitual practice, clearing just one item from any area of the house more frequent than usual on the way to the kitchen.
Yes. That tiny, low-effort habit is like the bedrock of non-zero days for keeping the environment under control. It ensures things never completely spiral out of control without needing these huge, draining cleanup sessions. It's a really effective anti-entropy measure just built into a daily path you already take.
Yeah, clever.
Yeah.
And linking the outside and inside environments, the review notes that resuming gardening activities getting back outside led directly to more mopping and sweeping than previous weeks. Indoors.
Yep.
It's a perfect little example that, expanding your positive hobbies often increases the necessary maintenance overhead, doesn't it? Your life gets richer, but also, slightly dirtier.
Exactly. A predictable consequence. Okay, speaking of hobbies and this kind of micro-mastery, let's move into segment 3, skill building and micro-contributions. What's fascinating here, I think, is the pursuit of culinary control. It moves beyond just basic cooking.
Yeah, they're really focused on learning to prepare vegetables in a fast, effective manner, simmering, steaming, or microwaving. And the current obstacle isn't the technique itself, it's how to infuse those vegetables with flavor while still maintaining their nutritional value. That's the tricky part.
That's the transition point, isn't it? From basic competence to real mastery. Anyone can steam broccoli, but keeping its nutrients intact while making it genuinely delicious. That requires deeper knowledge, seasoning, timing, moisture control. They're optimizing for taste without sacrificing the core health goal. And alongside that, broadening the repertoire with different egg recipes. Regular soft boil, steamed, soupy eggs. It's incremental control applied to basic staples.
Very methodical. And then we hit this digital contribution habit, which is, frankly, a marvel of consistency. Daily hopping through GitHub repositories and submitting trivial typos as pull request contributions across peer projects, that's Python, Elixir, Erlang, Rust, and Ruby, or other relevant ones. Just tiny fixes every day.
Let's just quickly contextualize peer for listeners. It's clearly a mnemonic they use, highlighting their core programming language focus areas. And that strategy, submitting trivial typo fixes, it's key, I think, for maintaining muscle memory and engagement. It's so much easier to commit, say, 5 minutes to a tiny fix every single day than it is to wait until you have the huge block of time and energy needed for a massive feature contribution. It keeps them connected daily to the open source communities and their target languages.
Okay, but again, let me play skeptic for a moment. If the goal is really skill building, are they maybe using these easy typo fixes as a form of, intellectual justification, avoiding the harder, larger Elixir or Erlang projects they mentioned needing to tackle? Is it sacrificing depth for the sake of easy consistency?
That's a really profound point and a valid concern, but the data in the review itself might give us the answer here. While it explicitly notes a lack of progress on the harder stuff, the Elixir and Erlang, testing and adopting the consistency of the typo fixes ensures they don't completely lose contact with that ecosystem. Think about the risk of tackling a really hard, complex goal when energy is low, burnout and total abandonment. The typo fix acts as a kind of minimal viable habit. It's probably not substituting mastery, but it's ensuring continuous engagement until the bandwidth for deeper work returns.
Okay, framing it as maintaining the entry point, keeping the connection alive until capacity increases. That makes sense. And the writing routine seems to echo that consistency, right? Goal of 2 posts a day, writing freely, daily, and switching between digital and analog notes for the review itself.
Exactly. And then finally, in this segment, the reading insight connects perfectly back to that foundational health goal from the start. The key knowledge gained was accumulating insights from a Chinese language source, focusing on understanding the 3 highs. For listeners, the 3 highs generally refer to those common chronic risk factors: high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and high blood lipids or cholesterol.
Right. So even if the advanced coding mastery stalled a bit that week, the fundamental learning about their long-term health strategy actually moved forward. It shows effective prioritization when energy is limited, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Which brings us neatly to our 4th segment, hobbies as applied science. And this is where the whole review just comes alive with maybe the most surprising and immediate success story of the week, the fish keeping experiment.
Oh, this part is brilliant. It's such a fantastic example of a hobby becoming this accidental, highly efficient research lab. They set up these outdoor ponds, basically just simple plastic containers, and chose to cultivate a common plant, the sweet potato, as an aquatic plant within that little ecosystem.
And here's where the biological efficiency just shines. The results were apparently fantastic. The plant thrived, developed beautiful foliage, a strong root system, and critically, it was effectively cycling nitrates in the aquarium water. This is using a common, easy-to-get plant to perform complex biological filtration, managing the aquatic environment naturally, efficiently, with minimal input.
It's just proof, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sometimes the simplest, most natural solution is actually the most effective one. And the success contrasts so sharply with the slower pace of the traditional gardening strategy this week, which seemed much more focused on planning.
Yeah, the gardening work involved contemplating strategies for the front yard's rock garden, apparently sparked by visits to garden centers and nurseries. It really highlights the difference between that active, immediate success, like the fish pond, and the strategic, longer-term planning needed for the garden. They are managing seedlings effectively after moving things around, so there's progress in preparation, even if bigger goals like researching micropropagation stalled completely.
It's the trade-off, isn't it? Planning takes mental energy. Execution takes physical energy. They seem physically depleted, but still mentally engaged enough for planning the calisthenics and the rock garden design.
Exactly, and we do have to acknowledge the goals that were totally stalled. They provide crucial context on where attention was purposefully withheld, no progress at all on getting the microscope needed for macrophotography. And the yellow-blue fish rack project, untouched. The only action was considering an EPS foam cover. That's it. This looks like intentional resource allocation. They consciously, or may subconsciously, traded progress on a microscopy hobby and a complex new fish rack for achieving that successful nitrate cycling and allowing for crucial physical recovery.
That makes sense. Okay, so pulling this all together, what does this very detailed, very personal week mean for you, the listener, trying to navigate your own complex life? If we synthesize this whole review from the erratic sleep right through to the perfect nitrate cycling by a sweet potato, what's the main overarching takeaway here?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that success isn't really about hitting every single metric perfectly every single week. That's often impossible. This week really demonstrates the power of just continuing momentum through small, consistent, low-effort actions, like those daily typo fixes or that single-item declutter on the way to the kitchen. Tiny things. It's also clearly about responding adaptively to the inevitable setbacks, switching to indoor reading when it rains, investigating calisthenics when the usual workouts just aren't feasible. Ultimately, momentum trumps perfection because it prevents those zero progress days and maintains the system's baseline stability even when parts of it are shaky.
Momentum trumps perfection. Yeah, I think that perfectly encapsulates the whole spirit of this review. And circling back to that amazing sweet potato success, I want to leave you listening with one final provocative thought, building on that core idea of natural efficiency. The discovery that simple sweet potato roots successfully cycled nitrates in that outdoor fish pond. It's such a tangible example of a biological system providing effective self-management. A complex, efficient solution needing minimal ongoing effort from the person running it. The question for you is, how might this application of nature's inherent efficiency, finding simple, biointelligent, low-effort solutions, translate to optimizing your other complex, multifaceted personal systems? Think about it. What natural forces or simple automated inputs could you maybe leverage to help manage your health, your digital life, or your work ecosystems, reducing the need for your constant manual, effortful input?
That's a powerful question to end on. A lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.